Welcome to the BJ Show. Purpose, the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. We all have a purpose in life. The question is, do we ever find it? And when we do find it, what we do with it is really, really important. Sometimes, you end up being in a career that is very fruitful for you. Your family's good. You think that you're happy, and then one day you wake up and say, this is not what I need to do with my life. So other people might see this as, well, why would you change it? They would never understand because it's not their purpose. So we all have to find that. And my guest today, I think he probably found his purpose. I think I found my purpose too, speaking to people and making sure that I can be able to share their stories and be able to have these conversations and, share this with the world. So without further ado, let's get it. Who I have on the show today is a father, a successful businessman, entrepreneur. He had a very successful business before what he's into now. He's the owner of Compassionate Care Pet Aquamation. Please welcome to the show, Alan Hillsberg. How you doing, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, so, the thing is about you is that understanding what you do and understanding the type of service that you're in right now, it's such a needed service in our community, and people don't realize that they do need it until it's time for it, right? So obviously we're going to get into that in regards to cremation and this advanced form of cremation. That's really, I think, is the future of disposition, not only for pets, but for everybody, obviously. So before we get into that, we don't want to speed through this. Where were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I grew up in Brooklyn, and I lived there up until 25 years old, and moved to Queens, met my wife.
Wow.
And here I am. The years go by.
Okay.
My grandmother used to tell me that the years, the days are long, but the years are fast.
Right.
And she was definitely right.
So how was it growing up in Brooklyn?
It was comfortable for me. My childhood friends are still my friends to this day. I went to school in Marine Park, a very affluent area. My dad took us away every summer, which was probably the highlight of my childhood. I had a very, very happy childhood, no doubt.
What did your parents do?
My father was a regional sales manager for a company called Plow. You might know Coppertone,
Yes.
Suntan Oil. He used to go different drugstores and sell products, but he became a regional sales manager along the whole Eastern Seaboard.
Wow, so he did a lot of traveling.
Yeah, he did a lot of traveling.
Wow.
And it was kind of like when he was away, I couldn't wait because my mom was easy to, my dad was more strict.
Yeah. That's how it normally is in most households. So, and your mom?
My mom did work.
Okay.
During the 60s, that's what women did. They stayed home.
Well, I mean, listen, that's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Taking care of the household, maintaining everything, and keeping everything in order.
And things were a lot less expensive as well. I remember my dad buying the house that I grew up in for $22,000.
Right.
I don't think you can buy a car for that price.
Some cars, but not any high-end stuff.
Oh, not really. A three-bedroom house.
Right.
We went away every summer. That was nice. Probably the best memories of my childhood.
Where was the best place that you guys went to as a family?
My father went to a bungalow colony called Morris Cottages, and he rented the bungalow for 2 months.
Wow.
I think back then it was $1,200 for the whole summer.
Wow.
And it was really a lot of fun. Met a lot of good people up there, a lot of friends that are still friends today.
Awesome.
And the memories I had up there are golden.
Yeah.
I can never forget them.
Absolutely. So in regards to growing up, what did you gravitate towards? Was it sports? Was it something else? You know, what was your thing as a kid?
Definitely sports.
Okay.
You know, I was actually pretty good at it. You know, whatever we played, baseball. There was a summer camp up there. We had baseball teams, and we played other camps at the time. You know, that's where I really learned how to, you know, get involved with athletics.
Right. So what was your favorite sport? Was it baseball?
Back then, it was football.
Football.
Yeah, it was always football.
Did you want to be a quarterback?
No, I wanted to be, I was a skinny kid. I wanted to be either a wide receiver because I knew I could run and I had good hands,
Right.
or a defensive safety.
Okay. Okay.
And I was both.
Yeah.
You know, there were leagues back then in the wintertime. Once I got back from those summers, and it was nice. It was nice. There was always something to do.
Right.
I was always had a good sheltered life.
Yeah.
In a way, my
That's
father
good.
was a great provider. There's no doubt.
That's great. Now, in regards to culturally, were you exposed to a lot of different, you know, cultures and things of that back in Brooklyn? Because I know Brooklyn obviously is a melting pot now, but what was it back then?
No, it was primarily, you know, Italian.
Yeah.
Whoever lived in my area is what I was limited to that.
Gotcha.
You know, it was about mostly white.
Yeah.
Mostly white.
Yeah.
I remember going to junior high school. I met my first friend that was African American. Darryl Boone. I still remember his name. Nicest guy in the world. I wish I could meet him now.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's around.
Yeah. So how was high school then? So obviously, you know, you're going through life, you're in Brooklyn, you're playing sports, you want to, you know, be a successful football player. What did you gravitate outside of sports in high school? Was there something else that interested you?
Music.
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 Okay.
I played the saxophone.
Wow.
I played the guitar. I did not play on any school teams. I didn't think I would be good enough. I was very skinny, which was not. I look at the kids today and I see my son playing, and I was just as thin as him, and he's excelling. So if I could do it all over again, probably would have played a lot more sports.
Was it
in high school?
Did you think it was more of a self-confidence issue?
Could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of kids end up kind of, you know, psyching themselves out before they even try things.
Right.
Based on what they see around them. You know, they might see some kids that are physically imposing and they say, oh, I don't have a shot. You know.
Well, right. That's exactly what it was like. Yeah. I remember, you know, some of they were so big, and I said, how can I play? I'm going to get hit. I'm going to get hurt. You know, and it's more in my head than the reality of it.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
That's sports.
As it is today,
yeah,
too.
right. That's life. I think a lot of people, they tend to psych themselves out of a lot of situations before they even dive into it because of that self-confidence that they
That's
don't
right.
have. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. You don't have that issue though, because what you dived into later in life, it's the opposite of that, because you have to have some confidence in yourself to be able to do that.
It actually started back in high school when I was playing music. I wanted to be, at that time, young. I was younger, obviously, 16 years old. I wanted to be the best saxophone player I could be. So there was a point where I would practice 4 or 5 hours a day.
Wow.
And I started getting better, much better. And I saw it in the tone of the sounds that were coming out, and I saw it in the way I was playing. And at that time, I realized that what you put into anything is what you're going to get out.
Absolutely.
You put in the work, it's going to show.
Right.
But I also realized at the time that you can't make a living playing the saxophone. I just saw myself, I knew that I was also very realistic in my talent.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't Elton John.
Well, you could have got a lot of girls playing the saxophone though.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could have, yeah, but it was, you know, playing the saxophone. I didn't want to play bar mitzvah bands and weddings because that was the future.
Right.
And I said, no, there's got to be a better life than
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I
that's when
realized
you
that very early. Still play, but I do that, on my own.
Awesome, awesome. So I guess obviously when you realized that, what was the next step for you? Because obviously college is on the horizon, right? So where did you go to college?
Brooklyn College.
You went to Brooklyn
Went to
College.
Brooklyn College. Actually, before, while I was growing up, we used to look for ways to make money.
Right.
And I remember so young, and back then nobody would, my parents didn't care, nobody cared. I would go into bars with a shoe shine kit and shine people's shoes.
Wow.
And they would give me money, and I'd come home with all this money. All this money. My parents, where'd you get that money? I said, I was shining shoes. God knows, people that were drinking alcohol in the afternoon, God knows who I was shining.
Right.
And how dangerous it could have been.
Right.
But
Those were the times back then, though. It was just
times.
different.
Even the owners, they didn't care. They
Yeah.
came in there. So I would go all throughout my neighborhood, and that's what I would do. And I'd come home with all this money. So I had that entrepreneur spirit
From early
very
on.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you understood the value of working for what you wanted.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, really key. So you went to Brooklyn College. So how
Right.
was that experience?
Well, it was free, which was a good experience. But back then, college was free.
Yes.
So it was different. I was more into music than I was into studying. I was never really academic. I had more street smarts than I had
Book smarts.
book smarts. I decided, I was working at the time while I was in college at the Athlete's Foot. That was I don't know if they have that now, but it was a sneaker store.
Yeah, yeah. It was a very, very popular sneaker store.
And
yeah.
I remember, getting to know all the different brands. Adidas back then was really big. And I had this gentleman come in, and he was very well off. At least I thought he was. He had a lot of gold on him. He came in dressed a little bit differently than everybody else. And he asked me about a pair of shoes that he was interested in. And I said, I gave him the information on it, and I said, but there's a better brand out there that you might be interested in, and I sold it to him. And he said to me, he says, you know what, I like how you're selling. He goes, if you want a better job where you can make a lot of money, why don't you give me a call? And he gave me his card. And it was selling life insurance.
Wow.
And at the time I was working at the Athlete's Foot. I was going to college pretty much, just not getting anything out of what I was
Trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Trying to figure things out. I wasn't going to be a doctor. I didn't have the academics for that, or a dentist. I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I thought it might be a good idea to give this a shot. So I went into selling life insurance. And I did very well with that. I understood the different programs. I understood how to sell it. And I went out. I remember I said, how am I going to find clients? And they gave me a telephone book. They goes, here you go. The big, thick,
right.
Just call.
Yellow pages, yeah.
So then I came up with a pitch. I remember it today. I would call people up, and I knew that I was working for a company that sold most of the insurance out there, and Metropolitan Life. So I knew that 1 out of every 3 people had a policy like that. So I went and I started going right down the list, just calling the numbers, people in the area. And I would say, our records indicate that 1 or more individuals in your family own a Metropolitan Life policy. My records indicate that that's so, and I'd like to come in there and, just review your insurance with you, make sure you're getting what you're paying for, that if things have changed, that maybe you should decrease or increase your policy. There's no cost for that. Let me come in. And I would have people raise their hand and say, okay.
Wow.
So I went out and I looked at what they had, and of course I was upselling everyone, but to help them.
Yes, yes.
Not, but it was also helping me.
Right.
And it became something where, wow, this is a good way to make a living. And then everybody else in the business started to do the same thing. And it got to a point where management at the time did not, did not really care about what you were selling. They just wanted you to sell it. And some of the things that they wanted us to sell, I felt was not in the best interest of the family that I was talking with. So I said, it feels dishonest, and I decided to back away.
So how long did you sell life insurance for?
I would say a couple of years.
Okay.
And I have friends that are still doing it in an honest way right now.
Right.
And I left. And at that point, now we're going back decades. I met Warren, which is my partner today with Compassionate Care. I met him, and we became friends. He actually was going out with a girl in Marine Park, and he used to walk by my house every day.
Right.
Didn't know who he was. He didn't know who I was.
Right.
But when we met later on in life, at this insurance company, he was selling there too. We became friends. And what we did was, we became friends, and he became a future business partner of mine.
So after you leave the insurance business now, you meet Warren, what's the next step for you? Obviously the gears are turning. You understand that you have this ability to sell things. You have this ability to sit in front of somebody and be able to pitch them something that they had no idea about it previously and get them to be interested in something, right? So that obviously might have opened up a new door for you in regards to possibilities, 100%, correct?
Yeah, I work for this company called Shell Container, and that's where my first big success came from.
Okay.
They would sell packaging. Like, in other words, back then when you got a telephone, you'd have that telephone encapsulated in foam. There'd be an outside corrugated box. And what we would do is instead of IBM buying the foam from one manufacturer, buying the corrugated printed box from another manufacturer, they would buy directly from us, and we put the whole package together. Right? So I started getting involved doing that, and I went to work with a toy company. They were coming up with different toys. Matchbox.
Okay,
remember those little Matchbox?
Absolutely.
Well, they came out with a car that you turn a switch on, and the lights would come on, and you'd be able to roll the car around, right? So I went to this toy company, and I said, listen, I can make something that would really complement the car that you have. And they said, well, what is it? And I called it Danger Mountain. And what it was a foam mountain that we made out of foam. And you would take the car would roll up the side of the mountain in a continuous circle till it got to the top of the mountain. Then it would go through a hole down and out.
Wow.
And they called it Danger Mountain. They said, well, we're interested, make me a sample. And I did that, they loved it, and they said, how much would this cost? I knew my cost was 50 cents per mountain. I said, listen, this will cost you $1 a mountain. So they said, okay, we'll buy 250,000 of them. So I was making 50 cents on 250,000. Wow. And at that time I was still a teenager, 19, 20 years old. I was young. And at the time it was $125,000 for a 19-year-old back in the early 70s.
That's a lot of money.
But here's the problem. Shell Containers decided now to change their whole strategy as to how they pay their employees, because they didn't want to give me that money.
Wow.
So
you didn't end up getting the $125,000.
I got a piece of it, but
you got a portion
I didn't get what you were
supposed to get.
Right.
All right.
So at that point, I contacted Warren. I said, Warren, I've got a great business that we can go into. And he decided to go into that business with me.
Wow.
And we started making money together. And then I came up with something, back in the 80s, bicycle helmets were becoming very popular. And what I did was I went into Toys R Us. I made a bicycle helmet, pretty much. And the bicycle helmets are the same made from the same material as packaging material, except
Really?
it's a higher density. That's all, just a higher
Okay.
density. So I developed a bicycle helmet called Cool Cats. These are for kids. We had Kit Kats, we had Cool Cats, we had all sorts of,
Yeah.
themed helmets like that. And I went in there, I showed them the helmet, and I told them that we could make this product for Toys R Us for the kids, and we had a nice markup in there for that. And they said, "Okay, let's go," and that's when we started really making a lot of money.
Wow.
I mean, a lot of money. And we had a company called Aerial Assault that wanted to get a piece of our business. And I remember throwing out ridiculous numbers, and they turned around and they said, "We're not afraid of that."
Okay.
So we sold the company. We had a tremendous amount of shares that we got for the company.
Right.
Did really well with that. If I could change things, maybe I would. Warren stayed with that company. I went in a different direction because they came up with another idea.
Right.
Making-
So you were always the idea man.
Yeah, Warren was, my partner was very good at taking a dollar and making it two.
Right.
I was very good at putting the ideas together.
Right. Good
Together,
combo.
we had a good combination because we were both good at other things.
Yes.
You know?
So okay, so now you and Warren are doing this. Things are good, right?
Yeah, making helmets.
How old are you at this point? 30s? Early 30s?
Yeah, 30s. Now I'm in my 30s
Yeah.
now. I mean, I'm talking about the highlights
Right.
of what we've
Yeah,
done,
yeah, yeah.
where the big money came in.
Absolutely.
And I met Wendy in 1990, somewhere around that time. And he decided to stay. I decided to do something else. I came up with a Smart Track. It's adjustable. It's a case
Yes.
to hold computers, but it had adjustable compartments inside. So no matter what size laptop you had, it would fit in the case. What different items that you use, like the battery pack and
Right.
whatever else you wanted to put in there, you could adjust the case to fit those things. Right. So every case you'd have the ability to change the inserts.
Wow.
You know, and I made money. I sold that company for $100,000.
Wow.
Which back then was a big deal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it was a big deal. And then I was looking for my next adventure.
So here's the question that I have, because there's so much, innovation that comes into this and ideas. Take me through a process of, you have success at a company, things are going well, but your mind is starting to pivot now, right? What does that look like? Because there has to be something that's drawing you somewhere else, right? And how does the creativity process work? Where it's like, where am I going? Like, what demographic am I hitting? What product do I want to hit? Like, is there some research that you do, or is it just an idea that just says, hey, this is missing in this space, let me go ahead and attack that?
I would say that's it.
Yeah.
This is missing in this space, let me go and attack that.
Right.
When it started to get a little bit more complicated, that's when I would take a step back and say, oh, do I really want to do this?
Right.
Let me sell the company. or I mean, after that, I got involved with concrete. Don't ask me how I went from.
So you go from
But decorative concrete.
Okay.
Like really decorative stuff, and we would go out there.
Like the designs and the
Outside of my home, if you look at my driveway, I've done that, and really very, very nice stuff that I was able to do with concrete, where you would think it was actually brick.
Wow.
But concrete's so much less expensive.
Right.
So in other words, if you were looking to pave your driveway with brick, it could cost you $20 a square foot.
Right.
Where with concrete, I knew it was like $1.50 a square feet, and then I can make another $7 flat out,
right,
or pure profit
all
for
pure
myself just with the decorative.
Wow.
So I went ahead and I developed a new company called Elegant Concrete. All right, and that did very well. problem with elegant concrete, it was more of an outdoor type of thing.
Right.
And nobody's interested in doing concrete work in the winter. So
So
that
it was more of like a seasonal thing.
seasonal thing, yes, right. But doing indoor work was very, very, very lucrative as well. And I actually had the unions come to me and say, can't you do this work inside? And at the time, it got more complicated. I decided to step away from that. But that could have been a very, very, I still have the tools, I still have the machinery, I still like doing it.
Right.
You know, I like working with my hands, I always did. And we came up with some beautiful designs, really very, very nice stuff.
Awesome.
And that was also taken over publicly for a while. And, you know, but it became something where if I wanted to get more involved with it to really make a very good living, I would have to do interior work. And that now I needed to understand how to do that.
Right.
We started dipping our foot into that, and it was very lucrative, but again, it became more complicated, and I decided that maybe this is not for me.
Got you. So after the concrete business now, where do we head? Where are we going?
Well, I started getting involved in real estate,
Okay.
and I started doing short sales.
Very lucrative.
I developed a number of investors that were willing to back me up. They wanted 10% of anything they lent me.
Now-
so if they lent me $100,000, they wanted
yeah.
$110,000.
Now, in that situation, right? Obviously, you're in the real estate business. How do you go ahead and seek partners now? Are these relationships that you've built through the years, that you've rubbed shoulders with, networked with these people, or was there a strategy that you came up with of how to be able to connect with these people?
I was renting an office in Melville,
Okay.
and the office I rented was owned by a major mortgage company. And I became friends with some people. I've explained what I was doing, my strategy, and they said they would like to have a piece of it. It's not hard to find investors as long as they know their money's secure.
Right.
So in other words, if I'm able to buy a home in this area, and let's say homes in this area are $500,000, but I'm able to buy a home for $150,000, right? They know that home's worth $500,000. If I go out of business, if I don't do what I say, they can always take that house from me
absolutely.
and sell it and get their money back.
ROI.
So they were
Yeah.
always secure.
Right. That return on investment is always important.
Right.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure that, hey, listen, I'm giving you this money. I want to make sure I get that money back.
Right.
They were only concerned with what they were making. They really didn't care what I was making, but they knew that if everything fell apart, they would still be able to sell that house and get their money back.
Exactly.
So there was no real risk on their end.
Right.
And here it was, me giving them 10% interest on money. Back then, the interest rates were so low that it was like, well, I could put my money in the bank for a couple of 2%, 1%, or I could go with him and get 10%.
10%. Right.
You know, so I developed a number of investors that were eager to invest in my properties. I was able to get a list of, I was doing actually lease options.
Okay.
Where people can rent the home and over time purchase the home.
Have the option to buy it.
Yeah, have the option to buy, or they walk out, one or the other.
Right.
So renters that didn't want to throw their money away in rent, that money would now go into a mortgage, which means when they sell the house, they get all that money back.
Wow.
So it was a great way, a great segue for people that really didn't have very much money but didn't want to throw their money away in rent. They'd still be able to get a house, and they have that option.
That's a really good option.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. And I developed that company, Lease Option Advantage, which I still have. Wow. It's not something that that was started in 2006. And I started to get involved with lease options. I started to get to know different banks. And I learned about what short sales were all about, where the banks had all these people foreclosing and they weren't getting anybody. And I would tell them, listen, this house is a dead house to you. Allow me to buy this house for $100,000. And they say, no, the value of this house is $500,000. But I said, yeah, but it needs all this work.
Right.
You know, I'll give you $100,000 right now. They'd be able to write it off as a loss. It was actually good for them. They'd sell me the house, and now I would need to fix it up and make sure I fix it up where it won't cost me $500,000 when
Right.
it's all done.
Right.
And I put together a number of contractors that knew what they were doing. They were great. They'd come in before I bought the house. I told them, listen, I want to renovate this whole room. I want to renovate the kitchen. I need to put a new roof on the house. We need to paint. We need to get this house ready for a new buyer. How much would it cost me? So if I bought it for $100,000 and they told me that they could do everything for another $150,000, I'm in this for $250,000, but I knew the market values were $500,000.
Right. So you're gonna make that money back.
Yeah, so I'm going to make myself $250,000,
Right.
you know, and it never actually worked like that. I would make $125,000, but those are big numbers.
Big numbers.
Big
right.
numbers.
Absolutely.
And I started doing that, and that was lucrative. But the problem with that is that closings were few and far between for me, and all the stars have to align for a house to close. The buyers have to want to buy the house. The banks have to approve the
Approve
buyer.
everything, right.
I mean, there's just so much that goes into a closing.
A lot of moving parts.
Right. So if you're doing this once a month, you're making a lot of money. You can make yourself $1 million in a year, no doubt. But it was something that, again, I saw another shiny object. But I did well with that. And I remember coming home, and we were living here at the time, and I would be bringing home $50,000, $80,000 at a time. But then I wouldn't have any business. You know,
For a couple
we
months.
eat every day.
Right. Right.
We eat every day. So we got to buy food every day.
Absolutely.
I have a mortgage and everything else. So I had to really make sure that that money stretched out to the next closing.
Right.
And then we had the market crash.
Of
Yeah,
2008.
yeah, we had that market crash. And that at that, you know, that was like really bad because I had 5 houses.
Oh, wow.
And all of a sudden, all those houses were less than what.
Yeah. All of
so
them
I was
got
taking a
depreciated.
loss.
Yeah.
I was able to gain all my money back. I was able to pay my investors, but I had no money. I said, no, I can't afford to be in this business and do this again.
Right.
So it was off and running to see what I wanted to do. And that's when I got involved with marketing.
Okay. So you get into marketing. Now, obviously, marketing is a very, very wide net. You be able to do marketing for literally everything, right?
Yeah, this is interesting.
Right. What made you choose this field to go into? Actually, funeral marketing services was the name of your business, or is the name of your business.
Josh Nelson.
Okay.
He is an amazing, amazing marketer. He actually, it was a commercial I watched, and he was being interviewed, and he was only working with plumbers. And he was making $250,000 a month. And I said, how is this guy working with plumbers making $250,000 a month?
Right.
It was ridiculous. I couldn't understand it. So I actually called him on the phone, and he picked up my phone, picked up my phone call.
Right.
And I remember the conversation. He said, well, Alan, he goes, you know, because I was thinking a plumber, okay, he's got a white van, he's running from house to house.
Right.
You know, he's fixing a clogged toilet or a leaky sink, and at the end of the week, if he has $50 left over, he's at the neighborhood bar.
Right.
These are blue-collar workers.
Right.
So how is he making this kind of money and not working with anybody else, just with plumbers? So he told me to go into a website called Info USA. And he says, take a look at how many plumbers. You could actually go by vertical. Because, well, how many plumbers are in the United States, right? And they gave me, like, I think it was like 400,000, some kind of crazy number. He goes, that's not my market. He goes, now break that down by the plumbers that are making $1 million or more per month, per year rather.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So that went from 300,000 plumbers down to like 12,000. He goes, that's my market. So he put together a list of all these plumbers, because somebody's making $1 million a year, that's $83,000 a month.
Right.
These people understand the value of marketing. They understand that they need to market to go,
Absolutely.
get clients.
Get business. Yeah.
He went ahead and he started selling different marketing strategies to that market for $2,500, a month that he was making as a commission for the work he was doing for them.
Right.
And if he's making $2,500 a month, they better be making $10,000 a month.
Right.
But they were, he had great marketing strategies in place. So how many clients do you really need at $2,500 a month to make an amazing living?
Absolutely.
Every 10 clients, if you have 100 clients, there's your $250,000.
Wow.
Right? So I said, wow. And I asked him, well, why aren't you going after everybody? He goes, because that's the kiss of death. He goes, you never get to know that industry as well as you should. For example, a dentist, or a doctor or a lawyer, just because I'm doing great marketing for this, a plumber, doesn't mean that those strategies are going to work for
Somebody else.
somebody else.
Right.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Case by case.
You've got to really get to know that industry to really help them.
Right.
So that made sense to me. And I said, okay, I like what he's doing. I'm totally confident in my ability to sell. And I started to look for, everybody's calling on dentists, doctors, attorneys. And, I had, and I was doing marketing before I met him.
Right.
And I had a hairdresser, I had a restaurant, I had all sorts of different people. And I saw that what I was doing, I was taking money from them, but the results were mediocre at best.
Right. Marginal.
That's how I met him, and his whole system and philosophy really made a lot of sense. So I started looking around, who can I go after? And I started, thinking deep and hard on that topic. I found funeral homes.
Okay.
And I said, no, I want death care industry. I got to be thinking about death all the time.
Right.
Maybe not. But I just keep going back to it because nobody's ever thinking about a funeral home. That's number one. When you call a funeral home, in many cases, the entrepreneur picks up, the owner of the funeral home picks up.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? Try doing that with a lawyer.
Right.
Or a dentist. They've got a whole staff of people.
staff.
It's hard to get to the decision maker.
Right.
So I kept going back to it, and I said, okay, let me check to see how many funeral homes are making big money. And it was a big market. They also had trade shows that I can go to and advertise in. So I said, okay, I'm going to stick with funeral homes. So I knew intuitively that I needed to have an amazing presentation so that I can approach a funeral director and just blow him out of the water. And I didn't even have a website yet. I had my name, but what I did was work 3 months on a presentation where if I got that funeral director on the phone, I'm going to be able to sell him. I started my price points at $1,250 a month.
Right.
I felt it was under the radar. They can
Absolutely.
afford to do that.
Yeah.
And that was a smart decision for me to make because my presentations were great. Nobody was calling on the funeral homes. I hit the nail right on the head regarding that. And I started to sell. I started with him in March. By June of that year, I think June 2016, I brought my first client in 3 months. And then from there, it started to get bigger. And I developed something they called it the Hillsberg method. That's what Josh called it, where I would make a video, 2-minute video, using Loom. I don't know if you know Loom.
I've heard about it, yeah.
Yeah, what I would do is I would find a funeral home, let's say in Hewlett, right? And I would look to see where they were on the search engine, not only in Hewlett, but in surrounding towns that they would serve as well, right? And I would see that so many of them had no visibility. And I would send them a video. I made sure this is all under 2 minutes long, showing them that, hey, here's where you are. I'm going onto Google. I'm typing in funeral homes. I'm typing in cremation services. I would show them what the volume is of those keywords, which were very, very high, and show them they're not being found, but your competition is. I can help you get up on Google in all these different towns and communities. And if I do that, you're going to see a big difference in the way the phone rings. And they would say, okay, let's try it. And what was great about working exclusively with funeral homes is that it was only one pitch. I mean, I started developing a specialized knowledge. So what worked for one funeral home in New York worked perfectly for a funeral home in North Carolina or California or in Wisconsin.
With a little variation, right?
Yeah, I mean, because I figured out what works for them.
Right.
So my job actually got easier. I didn't have to try to recreate anything.
Right.
You know, I wasn't working for a dentist or a doctor. I was working for one particular client. The other thing is, when they came to my site, Funeral Marketing Services, it was all about them.
Right.
It was all about them. So when I was in competition, I had no competition because everybody else would talk about everything they did. There was nothing about funeral homes. So they would gravitate towards me. So I started to build up 92 funeral homes throughout the country at an average price of $1,500 a month. Why would I get involved with Compassionate Care?
So you're making a lot of money. You are in a very, very good situation, obviously. You know, family's good. Everybody's well taken care of. You're happy.
Let's poison it.
No, I wouldn't say poison. It's
No,
more...
but you know something, I'd be in a different place today if
Yeah.
I kept it.
Right.
The problem that I had with funeral marketing services is that although I was able to get my customers up on Google, I didn't own Google.
Right.
Google changed their algorithms all the time.
And you're not responsible for that.
Well, I'm not, but if my clients are not up there,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
hey, Alan,
you're
have a
responsible
good
for
day.
that. Yeah, they're gonna put the blame on you.
Yeah,
Right.
they're gonna put, hey, listen, I'm not up here. Why
Yeah.
am I paying this money
Right.
and I'm not getting the visibility?
Right.
Which is not a problem. I stayed on top of the changes, but it always bothered me that I wasn't really in control.
Right.
I still knew 100% more than any of my clients. So therefore I was always able to help them, and I could still help them today. And I do. And I get them up on Google. But there's a lot of changes.
Right.
And, you know, Google, you know, changes their algorithms so often.
Absolutely.
It bothered me that I didn't have that control.
So that's when you started to maybe think about other options now.
Well, I wasn't thinking about other options
Okay.
at the time. I was just knew that this was the biggest problem I had with the marketing. But being in the death care space, I saw the opportunity with Aquamation.
So let's talk about that now.
Yeah.
You're in the deaf space, right? You're making...
I'm doing very well.
Doing very
Just
well.
Stay in my lane.
You can just stay there, but we go back to the theme of this particular episode, purpose.
Right.
Right? Sometimes you can be so successful and you're happy and you sit back and you look at everything that you've achieved and you're saying, there's something missing. I'm not saying that I'm miserable, I'm not happy, but something's nagging at me, right? So if you see an opportunity based on your career, you always see that there's an opportunity to be able to strike in a market. And you've seen this.
And I wasn't afraid to change. A lot of
Right.
people are afraid to change.
Correct.
They're in a particular space, and there really wasn't any reason for me to change. I was
At all.
I was on the right trajectory,
Yeah.
and we were going up. Just that I did feel that that was a big minus not having the control that I wanted. And I saw this, and I also, climate change was starting to really build up, and I knew that Aquamation seemed to be a really good choice.
So let's talk about what we're talking about here. Aquamation is a form of cremation. So we're talking about, you know, obviously flame cremation is the dominant option.
Been around for generations.
Been around for generations.
Doesn't mean that it's right.
Right.
Just because it's been around for
Exactly.
generations.
It's just what we've used to be able to.
And now it's me, and people are born every day,
Right.
and as they grow, this is what they know as how the process of how we rid ourselves of people and pets.
Right.
This is what we do.
Right.
And so it's mainstream.
Right.
There's no doubt it's mainstream. The other thing is that funeral homes have also changed. Most of them would, at the time I got involved, were doing burials in the cemetery. There was much more money for that type
Absolutely.
of service
Than
than a direct cremation,
Right.
which, really hurt a lot of funeral homes because they had these big buildings. They had their rent didn't go down, the rent didn't change, their cost to run their building didn't change, their overhead didn't change, but what changed was the amount of money coming in.
Right.
So that was also a factor, but not as big as a factor as not having the control I wanted with Google.
Right.
I can't dictate to Google where to place my clients.
Correct.
That did bother me. So, and if they could, and I always felt that, and they do this, they change their algorithms, a lot of people get hurt.
Yeah.
So, it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. But any business that you're making money in is not going to be a cakewalk.
Absolutely. There's always going to be ebbs and flows in regards to how it happens. But so you start researching Aquamation now.
I saw it was very popular in California.
Right.
I went down and I saw some very successful aquamation facilities. I looked at New York, which is where we live. There was none here. I never understood why, since we're the most densely populated city in the country, where, California, Los Angeles is a distant second.
Correct.
Then you've got Texas.
Right.
Why isn't there any aquamation facilities here?
Right.
I learned, it took me a year to figure this out, the underlying technology in New York is oil and gas. And along the whole eastern seaboard, and they would lobby aquamation out.
Yeah.
They felt very threatened by aquamation because aquamation didn't need any oil and gas. But the flame crematories, a row of those flame crematories, need a tremendous amount of oil and gas and fossil fuels to get them running. The amount of energy required to light up a row of those flame crematories is the same energy required to light up a 50,000-seat football stadium.
Wow.
The amount of energy required to light up get a aquamation machine running is a 75-watt circuit breaker. And if I owned the building I was in, I put solar panels on the roof.
It would cost you with, yeah, right.
Nothing.
Wow.
So we didn't need any oil and gas, and they couldn't continue to make the argument that, hey, we don't want to lose the revenue from the death care space. We want to continue to pollute the environment.
Absolutely.
So here it is. I'm in, and I remember speaking to Wendy, talking to her about this idea. In our bedroom one night, I was pacing back and forth. Said, listen, this is a great idea. And she would always listen to me, always give me the time to do whatever I wanted to do. And she does that now, whatever I want to do. Sometimes maybe it's not the best thing, but I knew that there would be trying times, because here's the problem with any business. 70% of any new business fails. Okay, so that's strike one. But I had a business that nobody's heard of. That's strike two.
Right.
Okay. So, but I knew my ability of marketing the company. You type in Aquamation in Google. I'm everywhere in New York, right up on top of the page. You type in pet cremation. There is competition, but I'm up on the first page as well. People find me on Google. But the first year was very, very hard. I mean, even the veterinarians had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
I mean, it was that crazy. It was just an idea in my head. And now, at this point, we're growing. We serviced, I think, about 6,000 animals in 3.5 years. And the business is successful, and it's on the right trajectory. But what I love about this business, I have full control over everything. I don't have to worry about Google. Either I go down with the ship, or I keep this going in the right way.
Absolutely.
You know, and there are things you have to do. You can't take on too many clients, because if you don't have the infrastructure in place, it's a good way of getting sloppy, looking at the money, looking and not helping clients, you're giving back the wrong ashes, or you don't have systems in place to really follow a pet through the process. So you have to be very, very careful with that. And I'm proud of where we are today, because we the highest rated pet crematory in New York State, hands down.
Wow.
We're the highest rated pet crematory in the country, hands down.
Wow.
And I have not seen a flame crematory that have the same reviews as we do.
That's amazing.
You know, so we really are on the right path right now.
So Compassionate Care is growing. Compassionate Care Pet Aquamation is growing. But let's kind of go through a process, because the most important thing in this business are the families, right?
Right.
So what I've noticed is that people are so attached to their pets that they will spend thousands of dollars knowing that this pet, the quality of life is not so great. They'll spend that money just to be able to hang on to a few more years. That's really, really intimate. So when that pet is gone, what are the challenges to be able to help a family and gain their trust? Because I think that's the biggest thing in this business, gaining their trust to know that they've made the right decision in regards to choosing aquamation over any other option.
Well, it's not so much what they're choosing, it's who they're dealing with.
Right.
It's sort of like you don't buy from a building, you buy from the people that run it.
The person, right.
And sincere empathy goes a long way. These pets are like family members.
They are family members, yeah.
They are, yes, they are. Actually, I stand corrected. They are family members. People love their pets sometimes more than they love their spouse.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
For example, the love and loyalty of a dog is unmatched.
Right.
Humans can never match that love and loyalty. There's no doubt, and it's constant throughout the life of that pet. And when you experience a loss, it's very, very difficult for some families, more difficult than humans,
right,
in some cases.
Absolutely.
So the empathy is very important. I think that our whole crew is very, very good in showing care, showing empathy, listening to families, answering all their questions, explaining the process in a clear manner. It's important to people to understand what they're going to go through and what they're going to expect.
Absolutely.
I know for myself, I can never take a family's grief away. But I know that when I explain things the way I do, they leave our facility knowing they made the right decision going with us. And that's the first step towards healing. And that's the reason why we have such amazing reviews. You know, people don't write great people, great service. They leave essays.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that. You know, I definitely took a look at it, and these are pictures and essays and, you know, just outright gratitude and just you can feel it through the screen in regards to reading these they're kind of like testimonials. You know?
Well, they are.
Yeah.
They are.
You know what I mean?
They are. And it's important that we get them from families because, you know, people don't know one crematory from the other. So they rely heavily on the reviews they read from past families.
Right.
And they make their decision based on that. So being new with this advanced form of cremation, having those reviews really help people take a closer look at us. And once they do, they become our best customer.
So in regards to the process in itself, obviously flame crematories and cremation, that's, I believe, obviously it's a quicker process, right?
Yes, it is.
How long does this take?
Aquamation is a 20-hour process.
Okay.
Aquamation mimics what happens in nature if you lay one's beautiful pet to rest naturally in the soil.
Right.
But instead of taking 3 months to 7 years, depending on where you live, for a pet to return itself back into the earth,
Right.
aquamation only takes 20 hours to complete.
Wow.
There's no burning, there's no incineration, there's no smokestacks, there's no carbon dioxide spewing into the atmosphere as a direct result of flame cremation. What we do is completely environmentally friendly.
Wow.
The only commonality we have of flame cremation, after the process is over, what's left is the inorganic remains of the bone. That bone is then processed into a powder, placed into an urn, and then returned to the family member. But there are two distinct differences with the ash. Number one, the ash is much cleaner. It's not charred by the fire. There's no soot on the bones. That's number one. Number two, families are getting back all their beautiful pet's ashes, not just some of them. Because in a flame cremation setting at 1800 degrees,
Things kind of go up.
heat
Right.
makes things rise. And particulate matter of bone ash, as well as humans, are just blowing right out the chimney. Where with us, it's almost like a jacuzzi effect. It's a gentle process of circulating water, where families are getting back all the pet's ashes, not just some of them.
Wow.
That's
I
a
think
big
that's
deal.
I think that's the biggest thing for me. If I were to be looking for a service, that would make me feel a lot better, because there is no smokestacks, there is no emissions. It's a more clean process. And why would you not want that, right? Like, even if it takes a little longer, sometimes you wait longer for better things, right?
True. And people are not waiting longer for this, because in flame crematories,
Right.
you know, unless they're not getting their ashes back in 3 hours,
Right.
they've got to wait. There's
a process.
There's a process.
Yeah.
But here's the thing with aquamation, well, with flame cremation, the reason why I got involved in this business, anything you incinerate, whether the shoes you have on or just blowing out birthday candles, the byproduct of incineration is always smoke, always. So when you think about all the people and pets that get flame cremated every day,
Right.
no wonder we have melting ice caps, you have wild weather conditions, we have a greenhouse effect that we're all experiencing. And I am not saying the greenhouse effect is because of flame cremation.
But it's a part of it.
It is not, but
Yeah.
it is a major contributing factor.
Absolutely.
Right? Every animal that you see in nature, the birds you see in the sky, right? Animals that live in the forest, when they pass, there's no combustion.
Right.
They don't blow up into a ball of flame. It's man-made, and anything man creates is usually pretty bad.
Right.
This is right on top of the list, flame cremation. When an animal dies in nature, their bodies, the nutrients from their bodies, return to the ground, new life grows for those first few months, and then they're reduced to bone. That's the definition of the circle of life.
Circle of life, right.
Could you imagine if every animal in nature, every bird you see in the sky blew up into a ball of flame?
There'd be nothing left.
This world would be on fire.
Right. It'd be nothing but deserts.
It would be
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
This wouldn't be the planet that people are used to living on.
Absolutely.
So if we could change the state of our funerary practices over to aquamation, the world would be a much, much cleaner place. Because there'll be no more emissions, at least from the way we dispose of humans and pets.
And obviously, that's where we're going with things anyway, in regards to green
Yes.
energy and clean energy, right? Like we're moving away from gasoline
Fossil
vehicles,
fuels.
fossil fuels, and we're going more into green energy and electric cars and stuff like that. So it's more solar power things. So if we can be able to transition our disposition into this as well, I mean,
And
it's a
that's
game
yeah,
changer.
that's one of the major reasons why I got involved in this business.
Right.
I feel that I could do something. I can have a positive impact
Yes.
while living on this earth. And that's one of the things that really drove me to leave what I was doing with funeral marketing
Right.
and get involved with this.
Purpose, Alan.
Yeah, it's purpose.
Purpose. Like
Absolutely.
sometimes you feel like you need to do more, and you have to find.
Give.
Yes.
I want to give. I want to give back in a positive way.
Absolutely.
I want to be known for that. Not in the way that I'm famous,
Right.
but know that my life had value,
Right.
that I've helped others. I feel that already helping people on an individual basis, because they say some beautiful things to me. Sometimes I show it to my wife.
Yeah.
My wife said, "You did that?" Now go take out the garbage.
All right, you feel good now.
Yeah,
Go do something productive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so I mean, I feel good helping people. I really, really feel good giving them a clear path.
Right.
What I dislike about what I do is that I meet such wonderful people under such terrible
Right.
situations. I mean, how low could they be in their life? You know, but I like helping them. I like holding my hand out, grabbing their hand and pulling them up.
The beauty about that, though, is that although you do meet them in these trying times in their life, they'll never forget you.
They don't. We get a lot of repeat customers that have called me back in when we first started in 2021,
2021.
and they said, "Remember you did this and this and this for me?" I said, "I do not, but I do remember the pet's name.
Right.
I don't remember what I had for dinner
Right.
last night, but I remember things like that." But it's truly humbling when they do come back, and they refer people, and that's why the business is spiraling in the right direction.
Where do you see this? Where do you see the business and your business in the next 5 years? If you had to step outside of yourself and put on the Nostradamus hat, where do you see it?
If I stay with well, I plan to stay. I would consider franchising, because there are actually states out there
That need it.
that don't even have one location. Right. And we've got a great name. We've got some big major players now working with us. You know, we're not just talking about a mom and pop 5 animals a month veterinarian clinic. We have some major players.
You're processing over 400 animals a month?
Yes, yes.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it really is a lot. We're a high volume crematory, but we give a service as if each family is coming in alone.
Right.
You know, that we can give them the time. We have a lot of different memorial items that they can choose from if they so desire. And we try everything we can to make sure we make this as easy as possible for them.
That's really, really good. Now, we talked about you growing up, you becoming this successful businessman and entrepreneur. Tell me about Alan, the family man.
Well, I've got 6 children.
Wow.
I've got 2 twin boys from our first marriage. Great kids. Matthew, he's got his own, he's got a baby. He's got another one on the way.
Wow.
I have Brett, who's yet to get married. Really good-looking guy. I don't know what his problem is, but he's very successful in his own way. Both of them live in Connecticut.
Okay.
And Wendy, we've been married 28 years.
Wow.
Last week.
Wow. Congratulations.
And, yeah, it's a long time. Yeah. A long time. We've got a great relationship. We have 4 children, 4 healthy children. All of them are successful. I have my son Justin living in Tennessee now. He's also in marketing, and he's doing his own thing. He's doing great. Daniel is working in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. Works for a like a YouTube type Vimeo.
Yeah.
Type
yes.
of,
yes.
Thing.
Video service. Yep.
Yeah, and he's in sales with them, and he's one of the top leaders with the company. Really proud of him.
Taking after his dad.
Yeah, and he was a football player too.
Yeah.
He's got records with Hewlett.
Wow.
You know, which still in the history books.
Absolutely.
Proud of him, proud of what he's doing now. I've got Sophia, who is in college, University of Delaware.
Wow.
She's in the senior year. She's going to be a doctor.
Awesome.
All right, she's my retirement plan in case whatever I do doesn't work. And I've got Jonathan, who's a really good kid. Just 16 years old. He's taller than everyone already.
String bean, yes.
String bean, but tall. He's an amazing athlete himself. He's good at school. What more? And I've got a wonderful wife. She puts everything together. She's really a wonderful woman.
It's really important that when you see somebody who's super successful, look at their family life, because it takes a special person to be able to allow you to be who you are, right? Don't put any restrictions on you. Allow you to be able to explore and expand and chase your dream. That's a good partner.
Right. Yeah. Wendy has been a very big part of allowing me to do whatever I wanted to do. Sometimes maybe not, and maybe I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Certain things, but she's always given me my space.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate her for allowing me to be who I am.
Right. Here's an interesting question on how we're going to close this off. If you can go back in time as you now, at your age, all the experience that you've had, and you go back and you talk to 19-year-old Alan, what would you tell him?
19-year-old Alan. Okay, so I'm past high school. I've always believed in myself, so I wouldn't tell him that. I've always had that ability that I know I could be successful.
Right.
I think really, study, really get to know what I'm getting involved in, and kind of like think about the infrastructure of building that company, rather than just thinking about how successful it can be. Look at it more in a pragmatic way.
In a macro way instead of a micro way.
Yeah. Look at it because, if that would have happened, I probably wouldn't be where I am today.
Right.
Because I would have been successful. People that are very successful, they're in the same business for a long time.
Right.
I've been jumping around a lot, and although I've had my successes, I think that, how do you describe success? From a monetary way, probably I would be more successful. Right. But I've always done what I've always wanted to do. So
you followed your path rather than somebody else's.
And that's successful in its own right.
Right. And success is defined by the individual. So
right.
I would say that you're super successful. You have a great family. You have a great business. You have a reputation that will precede you when you're no longer here because of the compassion that you show the people that walk into your business. That's more important than anything in the world. So,
well, thank you.
You should be very proud of that.
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm glad I had this interview. But I do want to say something about that shirt because I think people should read that. Autistic dad. Some people look up to the heroes. I'm raising mine.
Yeah.
Very cool shirt.
Yeah. That's
Very
my
cool
guy,
shirt.
man. I am a proud autistic parent, and I learn something new from him every day. And the beauty about being a parent is there's no reward or trophy that you need. You feel that reward every day.
Right.
When you wake up and you see them and how happy they are. And you go out there and you bust your ass and make sure that they can have the things that they want. And,
absolutely.
And all 6 of your kids, I'm sure they saw their dad do that. And if somebody asked them, I'm sure they would say, yeah, I think my dad is my hero, because you gave them an example of what a happy home and a happy, a successful business and being successful in here matters, right? Sometimes money is not always the thing that mirrors success. It's about being happy in what you're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Showing your kids that I'm happy in what I'm doing.
I'm proud that all my kids had a great upbringing.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt.
And you created that. You and Wendy created that. So
yes, yes.
So
she's a big part of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen, this was great. I hope a lot of people learned from this because cremation is a big part of our community, our environment. We have to know that there's other ways of doing this. And when things are new, people don't really understand it. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong, right?
That's right.
So this is where it's going to go. This is the future of the business. I call this the Netflix of this position. It really is. Like, you see what Netflix is today. Remember how Netflix started? They used to send you CDs in the mail, right? Blockbuster was still the dominant force. Then all of a sudden, Netflix said, we need to get into the streaming thing.
And the way I look at it, there's a saying, IBM was once small.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, it's a testament to you, man. So
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
That's all for this show. Until next time, I'll see you.